so much to you and me. Let's talk.
And here's your host, Henry Benefield.
Talk about the things that...
I'm your host, as it just indicated, Henry Benefield. Well, today we have a very interesting panel, and the title of today's discussion is What's on Your Mind? So we're going to ask some questions. It's probably stuff you've probably been asking in your living rooms, in your barbershops, in your churches and stuff like that. So now this is a different twist. It may not be the general comments or responses that you hear on CNN or all those other kind of places. Remember, this is Let's Talk with Henry Benefield, so you're probably going to hear some crazy stuff. But anyway, just to make a long story short, you do want to listen because, again, to give a perspective, a good perspective on a lot of the things that are going on today. I have 5 guests on my panel today, and I want to welcome each and every one of them to Let's Talk. But before I introduce each of my guests, let me thank all of you for your emails and your comments and support of Let's Talk. You let us know that we're doing a good job. I do appreciate that. Without you, this program would not be a success. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you much. So let's go to our guest. My very first guest to my right, which would be your left from the television, is a gentleman that is familiar with, associated with Volt. And he can tell you a little bit more about what it is, but his name is, he's also on the radio on Sunday on 88.3 WAIF. He is a religious announcer, does a great job. I listen to him every morning. I'm proud for him to be here and excited. Mr. Ron Williams, welcome to the program, Ron.
Thank you. Hello, everyone out there. Like I said, my name is Ron Williams. I run a business called The Vault, stands for Video Audio Lecture Theater.
Awesome.
Media background, electrical background, and engineering.
So just the all-around entrepreneur.
Yeah, all-around entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So you know your stuff. That's why you can have a conversation with us, right?
Yes.
Oh, great. Fantastic, brother. And then let me introduce my second guest. You guys know her. She ran for council, and she's a very, very active person in the community. You've seen her, heard her on a lot of talk show, and plus she's very lovely as well. And she's holding it down for the ladies on this particular panel, which we're very proud. We had to invite a very strong lady to hang with these gentlemen here. Please welcome Ms. Kelly Prather. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me, Henry. It's nice to be back, and I'm excited to be amongst these gentlemen who I'm pretty sure they will be intriguing and inspiring and provoke some stimulating conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And then I have another gentleman who is very educated in when it comes to talking about community things, has a very well abreast point of view, which he invited. Now, I know your name, but you know what? I'd like for you to say it because he puts that little edge on it, and if I say it too fast, I might not say it the right way. So, my brother, introduce yourself to our guests, to our public today.
Thanks for having me. I am Ricky Shearer. I consider myself a mixed mutt.
Well, welcome to the Mixed Mutt panel.
I'm recently retired, a couple of years. I have 40 years that I am an aerospace engineer, and then also retired as a pastor. And so looking forward to being a nerd on your show.
No, we don't accept that. An educated nerd at the Mixed Mutt Review. Now, see, but you didn't say Shearer, and I was waiting for you to say it. So the next time, guys, when you guys hear me say Shearer, he can't come at me, right? Because he overemphasized. Because you just did it, right?
That's right.
All right, cool. And then to your right, which is my immediate left, the gentleman's been on the program many times in all of these discussions. We want to welcome him back. I have no idea why I'm getting tongue-tied. I guess this distinguished panel is making me excited. But thank Mr. Rodney Barber. I started to call you what Deacon Lewis calls you, Ron. You know, that's that Deacon Lewis spirit that is in here. Right. Rodney Barber, who is the owner and entrepreneur for Rod's Automotive. Yes. So we certainly want to thank you and welcome you back to the panel.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Absolutely.
All right.
And then my final guest, which is your immediate right and my immediate left, he's a pastor as well of a church in the city of Cincinnati, very well known, does production and does a lot of major things in the city, promotions and things like that, different events. And I'm not going to call him by his first name because I've never called him by his first name, but I want to call and welcome Pastor Driver to the program.
Well, thank you, brother. It's always good to be here and to have these conversations. They're enlightening and stimulating. And I think if we drill down far enough,
Yeah.
we might come up with something.
We gotta go. We have to drive it a little deeper.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's what. Drive a little deep. That sounds like a song, doesn't it? You know, I'm a singer, so I'll be creating something in the last minute. Okay. So anyway, panel, I want to bring out a couple of things because you know when you take the pace of the general community, there's some things that's going on that's kind of under the scenes. We see the hype. We see the sensationalism of what's being reported or what's being talked about, but there's always a root to a lot of things that's going on, which produce negative results in the end. Character. Across the board, in the community, in business, in individual homes or individuals, in politics, in world discussion. I mean, let's talk about character. First of all, let's talk about what it is. Do we feel that there is still yet, and I'm sure there is, but I'm sensing there is a lack of character. I mean, am I on the right page with everybody? So I think we should let's talk about character, bring our own individual experiences in to share with our public because I think it is important for us to understand it's important to have character.
Yes.
Very important to have character. Since I am a gentleman, Ms. Prather, and you are a lovely lady, I'm going to start with you. Give us your points on the specifics of character.
I think that character is not necessarily how you see yourself, but how other people see you and how you portray yourself to the public.
Okay.
I think that, like you said, there's a lack of character, and it's really based on the current political climate. I think it has a lot to do with where we are. I think that we're in the height of the reality TV show President, and that is concerning. I think that if you look at the fact that he was a reality TV star 8 years prior to him becoming the President of the United States.
But can you say it's just dependent upon him? Can you also recognize that there was a lack prior to him being elected as a president?
Yeah, but I think that was the height of it. I think that it started years back. But
Okay.
I think that he was the catalyst to he was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think that like you said, we've sensationalized inappropriate behavior.
Sure.
And it comes out in our everyday lives.
Sure. Pastor Shears, let's identify what is character. And I know in your business, you have to deal with that every day, dealing with the different types of professionals and different levels of individual in business as well as in religious and community things. And I'm going to ask you to slide that little microphone in front of you right this way.
I think character are those traits that define people. And as Prather, Kelly said that I don't think it's just political.
Right.
I think some of the economics has driven the lack of character in our neighborhoods. So in other words, when manufacturers leave a community, character leaves. We don't see people on the streets. We don't see TV repairmen. Those shops in the community. And then I think social media, and I'm all for it, but it has really destroyed character. It's supposed to, it says social media, but people are losing social skills because we stay inside the house, and we're not in the community to walk by, past a driver and so we're losing that face in the community, and we're losing the social skills as well.
So someone may be listening to the program and saying, I hear them saying character, and for us as individuals who's quite aware of what it means, let's go and identify some of the specifics of what it is to have good character.
Well, we have come a long way in this country. Not as far as we should have come. And we've met with all kind of obstacles in coming to where we are. But if you look back at our forefathers when they were going through the civil rights struggle, they were beaten, they were ostracized, they were put in their place, but they had character. There was nothing that they did that caused them to lose what they had.
So, again, to someone who's listening to the program who does not understand the specifics of character, let's identify what those specifics are so I can determine whether I have it or I don't
Okay.
have it or whether I should get it.
Can I give you an example?
Absolutely.
An example from my coming up?
Yes, sir.
I was brought up in Mount Auburn, right? And my uncle and his wife, my aunt, lived upstairs from us, right?
Yes.
We lived downstairs. It was 6 children. When we would lose our electricity, we were poor. We could rely on our uncle to send an extension cord downstairs so we can plug into that extension cord. That showed that he cared for us. That's part of what we're missing. People don't show that caring affection anymore. It's all about me. I got to get what I can get.
Yes.
Everybody's taking from everybody else, so I got to take me a little bit too. We don't have that community vibe anymore.
So you're saying that caring for others is
Absolutely.
is character.
That's a character trait.
Okay.
And that's just one of them.
That's one of
Okay.
them.
You know, I think about complaining when my father made me rake leaves and do things, and I would complain, and his comment would be, "You're going to do it anyway because it's going to build character." And so, you know, he was instilling priority, respect, responsibility. So those are the traits, as Pastor Driver said, that make someone who they are.
Exactly.
What about honesty?
Honesty.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that character?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
When I think of character, I think of loyalty, respect, honest, compassionate, just not only caring for your environment or for your fellow man, but also for your environment. And like Mr. Shearer, if I'm said,
Don't forget that.
I think that, like you said, the
Medea.
driving force is economics, and when there's a lack of economics in the community, it takes away from the character of the community.
That's
When you
right.
think about
Right.
the fact that we no longer have culturally based communities, it's like a melting pot. We don't have black communities.
Well, and I guess because I want to be confrontational, and I do agree
Yep.
that there's some contribution, but then again, back 50, 60, 70 years ago, we didn't have all that stuff in the community,
Right.
yet there
Right.
was still character.
Right. And
You know,
and
I'm
I
sorry.
feel we was a communal people.
Okay.
We was communal, and I think character started in the home.
Definitely.
When you grew up, your parents taught you things and how to carry yourself.
Exactly.
And now we have the positive images are shown or taught on TV and on the internet now. It's not communal no more. So the communities are being broken down because the communal part of us has been stripped away.
Yes, and I'm so happy you said that, because that was kind of the point that I was making initially, where we are defining ourselves and our lifestyles based on what we see in the media.
Right.
And so that reality TV
Exactly.
show perspective that we're all taking, it's because it's what's in our face on TV and on social media. So,
Yes.
and it starts in the home.
So if that is happening where previously it came from the home, it is now no longer coming from the home, what are the options to get it back into the homes?
Well, again, I remember coming up in the neighborhood, there was small businesses everywhere.
Yes.
Right.
You had the dry cleaners, you
Yep.
had the coal man who carried a coal around in his bag, bringing it to everybody. There was a guy in my neighborhood who was called the rag man. He would bring rags around
Oh,
to
yeah.
say,
Absolutely.
you're cleaning up and stuff. But those kind of things are non-existent anymore.
I think we need to demand positive images.
That's right.
And I think that's where I'm trying to gear the conversation towards, and I'm not denoting anything that anyone's saying on the panel. I think, but there's a root or a grassroots thing I'd like to kind of jump on, and that is the foundation, because in my mind, we didn't have a whole bunch of money, and where I lived, there weren't a whole bunch of businesses either. but being instilled to be honest, to be respectful, as the pastor just indicated, to have self-respect. You know, that when, or you remember the old thing, your word is your bond.
Yes.
And you could tell the character of the man by what they say.
Yes.
But nowadays, people lie off the thing, and nobody says, well, you know, nobody respects you because you don't have any character.
Right.
But,
Right.
Brother Henry,
Yes, sir.
there was a time when everybody in the house didn't have to work. That's become a problem in itself because you don't have social time anymore.
So you're saying because they don't work, they can't be honest?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying because everybody has to work now, there's no social time.
So you're saying because everybody works, I can't tell you to respect yourself?
No, I'm not saying that. I think you said that.
No, I'm asking.
Yeah. I think what I hear him saying is that you had someone who could stay at home and keep the home intact and keep the family together. But because everyone's so preoccupied because of
Things are
economics,
fragmented now.
things are fragmented. Family time has diminished significantly, and that's what I think I hear you saying.
And that's part and parcel of why there was so much character, because you were able to transmit it.
And even the community is fragmented because we live in a day, a lot of churches are landlocked because the parking lots are very small because people walk to church. But now we live at a time where people live in one neighborhood, go to school in another neighborhood, and go to church in another neighborhood. And so they don't even know their neighbors.
But we still had character back in the slavery days. Everybody had to work. Had to get out there and work. Am I right?
And there
But
was-
you knew your neighbor.
There was a common goal.
It was
You knew your
communal.
neighbor.
And there used to be a time where your neighbor could whoop you if you got out of character. Now you can't. Who changed that diet?
And I think that's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay.
You know, I'm not trying to denote anything that anyone says, but I feel like in some of the discussion, it's a deflection of the real truth.
Right.
And the real truth is, it should be focused that it's important, I don't care whether you have 1 minute with your children, to instill things into them to make them good people. You know, we've always had it rough.
Right.
You know, back in the day, Mama went to work for Miss Ashabauer or whatever her name was, and came home and had to take care of us too,
Right.
and get up early in the morning to go. Y'all make sure you had this, and like I do agree. You know, the next door neighbor made sure that when you came home, you don't let anybody in there. Don't leave that yard. I understand that stuff. But even in the midst of all of that, there was still, in my appearance, a insertion of the value of having character.
Oh, yes.
So, and I'm trying to open it up. My directors tell me I talk too much, but I think it does say let's talk with him.
Right.
You know, so I'd like to get that because I think people are missing the point that it doesn't make how many hours I have. It's important to do these kind of things.
Oh, I agree. I think we
And I
agree.
think I
think a lot of people recognize that it is an issue. We just don't know what to do.
What to do.
aha, and that's why we're talking.
You know.
And it's because, well, not only because, but there are a couple reasons why it's hard to bring that back again, because
Why?
I got my children, well, they're all grown now, almost as old as I am now. But you got them, they got their own little room, their own little devices.
And
They go into their own
in
little
your
world.
house,
Well, not in my house anymore.
or in your son's house.
I don't need to hear nothing from you because I got my own stuff going on.
So why? How did it get to that point? Okay, I love children. I respect them. I think they have rights and privileges, but I think they're called parents.
Yes.
As I was telling, and I have wonderful family. I respect their privacy, but when it gets to the point that the governing body of parents that is supposed to keep everything in order is overruled because we're trying to be so up to date and giving everybody their rights, that they're respecting our rules and regulations, talking about this is my room and respect my privacy. This is my house.
Right.
Yes.
I love you as my child enough to not to abuse you, to take care of you and stuff like that. But the bottom line is you don't have to be abusive to a child.
Right.
But who's running the house? The child or the parent?
Right.
Right.
And I don't want this to come across like I'm saying you got to be just horrible to your kids and demanding because I said so. That's not what I'm talking about. But there has to be a foundation. There has to be
Correct.
order.
Right.
Who's running the house? And I understand on my job, there's a lot of things that they do that I don't agree. But because they are the owners of this company, I have to respect their authority.
Right. Right.
And who taught you that?
My grandmama.
There you go. Your parents had started somewhere.
Exactly. Exactly. Or the simple fact you talking about character, and I need you guys to really jump in because my crew is going to jump on me for doing it. When we had specifically at church, I remember I didn't know anything about, because I grew up with brothers, you know, being rough with the little girl hit me and I punched her back. Well, I'm just a kid. And one of the mothers at the church, baby, come here. Little boys don't hit girls. She hit me, little boys don't hit girls. So to this very day, I've never had a desire to hit a woman or a girl or whatever because I was taught to value.
Right. And that value
That-
was taught in my
and it was
household.
one statement. It was one statement that one woman said to me. So if a young man is hitting and beating up his girlfriend, who had an opportunity to take one time to say something? Little boys don't hit girls. You guys are too quiet.
Like I said, it happens in the household. I mean, when you born, you know, your mother or father, or even if it's one
Right.
household, your mother teaches you values, should teach you values in the beginning. So you have somewhere a roadmap to go on, to walk with. And I don't think that's happening anymore. And I don't know
And
why.
I agree.
And I think that's the conversations when we have these public meetings, we need to start at that point because we've been taken away from our communal spirits.
Amen. Amen.
And you don't hear that in the public. You know, we never get to why, and we concentrate too much on the negative instead of concentrate on the positive.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. I remember learning enthusiastically about self-respect, presenting
Yes.
yourself the right way. You know, Pastor Damon Lynch preached a sermon, What is Respect? What does the word mean? You know, and he really broke it down. And I've never heard any community activist break it down the way the man of God broke it down. Everybody left the church says, I never knew that. How much did we used to get in our churches, our sanctuaries, and our mosque and everything? That have we become too passive to pass those traits along?
I think so. I've heard over the years, because I've had it so bad, or my family's had it so bad, I don't want my children to have it as bad as I did. And
that's a good thing.
It's a good thing, but you still got to put the structure in there.
I agree.
You do that without adding the structure. You just say, okay, I'm going to get you a Game Boy. What are the new games nowadays?
PlayStation 2.
I don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
But you do that by you try to appease them instead of continuing to teach them the value of having what you have. You understand what I'm
I
saying?
do.
Yeah.
And the point that you're making, rather than being passive to your kids to just please them, we're lacking the ability, or we're lacking the understanding, the importance of teaching them.
Yes.
Well, yeah. It's gotten to the point now where a lot of the adults, parents, use that so that they can have their own escape from reality.
Well, but then again, is it like what I'm not sure it was Reverend Shearer or Kelly, that they don't know?
Well,
I think we're struggling. I think churches are struggling, community, we're struggling because we're trying to, we say we want the good old days. And in some respect we do, but we don't want all of the good old days. You know, social media is here to stay.
It is.
So that's not going away. We just have to figure out how to backfill it. I think about a long time ago, it was called what? Agriculture, we worked with our hands, and so when along comes Industrial Revolution, and we're working at offices, and all of a sudden Americans, now we're fat and overweight. And so we backfilled by going to the spa and working out and walking in the park. We didn't do that 60 years ago, and so we're not going to go back to the fields. We're just going to figure out how to backfill it and start getting in our 10,000 steps, right? And so I'm saying social media is not going to go away, and so we just can't let it control us. Some kind of way we have to, get back to basics in terms of building character, but at the same time embracing,
But can we really, Pastor, can we really blame social media? Because whether you have the computer on or off, does that really dominate what you're doing or your commitment to what you should be doing with your children?
It shouldn't dominate it.
It dominates the people that always had it all their life.
The new generation.
Right.
Okay.
People that can do without it can do without it.
So for
They
those,
can't do without it.
so you have, Mr. Barber, you have several sons. You have a daughter. You grew up very diverse in the community, and your sons are very respectful. Your sons are very productive. They go after what they want, and I can basically say I do believe it's come from you and your wife's teaching. So you were inundated with all of that stuff. What made a difference?
Well, I had the type of parents you couldn't just sit at home and do this all day.
Okay.
Well, get up. You couldn't sit home and watch TV all day. You couldn't just do nothing all day long.
Okay.
My mother, I ain't gonna keep walking past and see you doing nothing.
Okay.
She's gonna pull out everything out the clean closet and tell you to put it back in.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
Clean out this closet. There wasn't nothing wrong with it.
Right.
But you just couldn't. But people nowadays just, you trying to talk to somebody, hey, doing this. You go, whole families go out to eat, everybody on the phone.
But I'm back to saying dealing with people is where we also help build our character.
Correct.
You know, and so I get a check, I pull out my smartphone and it goes to the bank. Where 10 years ago, I'll go to the bank.
Physically.
How you doing, Miss Maddie? Oh man, how's your mom doing? And I can say some things to encourage her. She can say some things. How's your daughter? And that interaction can brighten up my day. And I can walk out of there and feel good. She can feel better. And that helps build character.
Now
But
you
now
can
it's
you can on
clicking.
one important issue of it is not having businesses, economic issue, not having things in the community for our kids to go to.
Right.
If you go through our communities, there's like back to what one of you guys was saying, there's no businesses that you see, no stores. You still can teach them, but then they need examples. My example was my parent. They taught me in the house. My father was an electrician. He took me on the jobs with him and showed me things and taught me what I could be and told me you could have options. And they told me to go to school. And when I got out of school, I had to do homework. I just couldn't go play. So, but it was other things. I seen images. I seen positive images out in the community that I seen too. So it's on several fronts we need to attack to get back to where we used to be.
He's saying if you don't never have to go anywhere though, you don't need any character.
But you have to go.
But you have to.
When you
I'm
do
saying you have
stuff
to.
on the phone and you do stuff here and you do stuff there.
But when they get older, what's going to
That's
happen?
why
They ain't
they
going to have
don't
a
have
job.
any
They
character.
ain't gonna
Right.
have
That's why they don't
And
have it.
this is why I'm bringing this subject up.
Right.
Because this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the lack of motivation, no self-respect, no value of when you give them things. And I understand that that's a part of instilling character in an individual. I remember when you want a new car. Well, Dad says, I'm not going to buy you a new car. What I'll do, I'll pay half, and you come up with the other half. Now, what that did was it provided me an opportunity to apply myself towards something that I wanted to get.
Right.
And when I finally got it, after I worked so hard, I appreciated it a lot more.
That's right.
That's
So
right.
we're talking about character, and I understand. I'm not talking about economics doesn't play a part in it, but we have to go back to the root. And this is one of the reasons I'm having such an open conversation, because people are very passive about just letting them do whatever. I don't understand why they went out and blew up the school and why they wanted to shoot this person. If person doesn't know respect for life, how can they value anybody's life?
Right, and I guess I want to touch on that.
Go ahead.
In terms of children not knowing respect or being respectful.
Or anybody.
Or anyone not being law-abiding citizens, if you were to try to figure out how that happens, society did that to us in a sense, because parents are not allowed to be parents anymore. Parents are not allowed to be parents. When you think about services like 241 kids, you know, like this gentleman said, back in the day, if my neighbor wanted to discipline me, give me a whooping, it could happen, and there was nothing I could say about it. But now, you can't say anything to anyone's child. Exactly. You can't say anything to anyone's child. You can't discipline the child. Parents are afraid to discipline their child, especially if they have a child who's unruly and threatening.
Yes.
You know, that's just the reality in some households.
And you see it on TV.
You see it on
schools.
social media. Exactly.
Well, what I'm shaking my head to the statement, you can't.
Okay.
And I don't agree with you can't. I do believe we're dealing with issues where we're also being attacked about upholding our morals and
That's
standards
right.
in our community.
Yes.
But the fact that you can't does not exist.
Right.
Because of the simple fact, we have as parents, and I'm not going to say somebody has, but people in my general vicinity have confronted that concern.
Okay.
But they stood on the fact that, first of all, I am the parent. I am doing the best that I can. I'm instilling things within this child so that they won't get into the position where they're on the other side of your gun and you're going to shoot, and you're going to come in and question what I'm doing and teaching. I'm not talking about abuse. I do understand it. Public, please. I understand the severity of abusiveness to
Right.
children. That's not what I'm talking about. Legitimate parents that are working within the love between child or relationships to educate, make good citizens out of our kids, good human beings out of our kids and out of each other. I'm talking about from that realm, that I don't believe that we're confronted with all the social organizations that's going to stop us. I believe that people are misconceiving that I can't say anything to my children because they're operating out of fear.
Right. Okay, and so let me interject. Now, I get what you're saying, and I understand that, you know, I think that the catalyst that kind of sparked your conversation or your comment was the word I can't. You can,
There you
but
go.
you can with the understanding that there's consequences. And the way
There are no
that these
consequences for teaching.
the way that these social organizations will respond to us as African Americans is different than the way that they're going to respond to our counterparts.
that's-
So-
From a
so-
social justice perspective, you have to walk a tight rope when you're trying to discipline your child.
So is it, Ms. Prather, is it the lack of understanding? Because when I was researching, and that's a whole other show, I was researching the different cultures that raise their children differently. Is it fair, or should we be addressing that there's only one mindset to raising children when they got 30 billion different types of kids in the world and different types of cultures? You know, the Italians may have this way, the Hebrew Jewish people may have their way, African Americans may have this way, the Germans may raise, the Chinese raise their kids differently. Is it really fair to put all kids in a general category?
Absolutely not. And I think that you
Okay.
have to treat your
So-
children as individuals and discipline them. Like in our household, we were disciplined different because I was more assertive. I had brothers who were passive, but then they would sneak and do certain things.
Sure.
And so our parents had to approach us in different ways based on our personalities. And you have to know your child. But from a societal perspective, what I'm saying from a social justice perspective, these social service organizations are going to, you know, take the child's word over the parent. Unfortunately, in a lot of instances, they take the child's word over the parents, and they're quick to snatch a child out of the house if
That's
the child is saying that they're being abused. And
No, that's not true. That's not. It has to be validated, and only because I recently was dealing with this with a family member.
Okay.
And the simple fact, one of the things that the people in the social organization was saying, they have the right to investigate, but they don't question when parents like spank their kids.
Right.
They question when they beat their children. And so that's when they have to step in. But folks in the community think you can't spank your children or touch your corporate punishment, because there are some communities that spank their children. Some folks talk to their kids and they get their point across, but every parent doesn't operate like that.
Right.
So the fear of thinking I cannot discipline my children because the 5241 kids is going to come in is a myth.
But that's the images that's being been pushed out on the media.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's a subliminal thing that's going on.
Yes.
Okay.
So when we get the truth like what we're doing, let's talk. No, they're not. They're not going to put you in jail. Now, if somebody takes and break the kid's arm, of course you're going. And I'm going to be on the jury. You understand what I'm saying? Now, back in the day, our mothers and fathers would be under the jail. I told my mother that one day. I said, Mom, she's 80 years old. I said, no, 82. I said, Mom, you know what? The way you chastise us, you could have went to jail. She said, you had to survive them getting to the house first. I said, what do you mean? She said, first of all, you had to get in the house, they had to get in the house, and they had to get you out of the house. And trust me, by the time I got finished with you, I would go to jail for the right reason. So, I mean, I'm not saying do that, y'all. I'm talking about our parents of yesterday. Some of y'all are listening to it, but the passiveness, again, we're talking about the lack of teaching, to let parents know what they can and cannot do. That's really the issue here. It's not about the economics in the community, because you know what? You don't have to have $1
Right.
to be honest.
You can be poor and still have more.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what I'm
And
trying
so-
to. Yes.
I'm with you. We're
That's
with you.
okay.
I
Well,
think we need more positive information for the parents to start on their kids in the beginning before they get to an age where they start acting out.
so now we're talking about positive influence on parents, and let's say this now: we're parents, most of us. Where did we get our information? It certainly wasn't from the social services. Who did it come
from
from?
my parents.
Oh, really?
But
Oh my gosh! Y'all can't see a big light bulb just went off over there, right? Oh, really? So you mean now, not necessarily that they babysat the kids, and some of them do, not necessarily that they had to live in your house, but did they ever miss an opportunity to instill valuable information from their past experience as to what you were going through as a parent? They never missed an opportunity.
again, though, I'm thinking, from what I've seen, is that the parents today have I don't know if it's an excuse or if it's a way to not have to be involved with children, but they say, I don't want to deal with them like I was dealt with.
What do you mean deal with them? I don't understand.
Well, like you were talking about your mom, how she would beat you in spite of what they say.
Well, no, I'm saying I'm not trying to focus on the fact that I'm trying to tell people to beat their children.
Oh,
Right.
I'm not either.
I'm trying to get to the point where we give information to a parent that is struggling with what do I need to do? I have a child. What's important for me as a parent when it comes to the relationship with my child?
Right.
It is very important to instill character within a child. Just like we talk about self-respect. Well, if the child doesn't respect himself, how is he going to come up and,
Respect anyone else. He's not.
and aren't we getting this in the community?
I think it depends on which community you're speaking of. We're dealing with a different era of people, of children.
We're dealing
and
with human beings, though.
We're dealing with human beings, but realistically speaking, I mean, I think we could date it back to the 60s when, who was it? It was Johnson who initiated the poverty initiatives. And then when you look at, they had the failed poverty initiatives, then you had Nixon with the war on drugs. And our families were separated. That was a catalyst to start separating our families. And so when you look at the fact that we started having more single parent households in the 80s, you had black fathers, you had poor white fathers incarcerated, and so you had single moms raising their children. So there's a lot of factors that go into this, and I'm happy that you have family members who, can discipline their children, and it's okay. And I still believe that I should be able to discipline my nieces, nephews, whoever. But I know on the flip side, I know parents who have had their children taken away from them because they were doing their best.
But are we
trying to
really
raise
talking
their
about
kids.
discipline?
Yeah, it was discipline. It was some basic. I perceived it as discipline.
So we're saying
the
character,
system-
instilling character in our
I think it's
kids.
values.
Ah.
But it has to start in the beginning, though. And they're going to get tempted by those who don't have values. Kids that don't have values.
Right.
So that's going to take a lot more work.
But
of the
does that have to
parents.
do with beating your children?
No.
Okay, so
No.
we're staying focused on our discussion
Yeah.
and I think that a lot of parents are not aware this is what I need to do.
Right, right.
And we're here to empower them. That is absolutely what you need to do. And the repercussion, not the repercussions, but the benefits are,
Great.
thank you.
Right.
You have a person that has a work initiative because they understand the value of asserting themselves to achieve what they want.
Right.
But if I didn't have to do anything to get anything, I'm going to grow up expecting everybody to give it to me.
That's right.
And,
right.
and that's getting to what I was trying to get to, is that the kids nowadays have everything. Their parents are giving it to them instead of them forcing them to go out and work for it.
Or encouraging and
encouraging
directing them to go out
Right.
and motivate themselves so they can see how to apply and achieve.
But
Right.
just like it changed for us, it can change back positive.
That's right. Pendulum can definitely
With the
swing.
right training and
Yeah.
foresight and focus and demanding of our leaders in the community.
Well, I think we just got to realize that we've slipped and we've got to,
Right, that's what I'm
Come
saying. It
back
can
again.
change back. It
Yeah.
can change
Like
back.
the old folks say, now you're talking. And not because I want to be right. I'm just making sure that we're agreeing as a panel. It is important that we bring these type of discussions up because people always complain. I said this in many things. They complain about the fruit that comes out of the tree. But we never go back to the root to understand what happened in the process of that tree growing to produce bad fruit.
Right, right. This is true.
Because everything has a root.
That's right.
And when we go back to it, please forgive me, my staff and everybody else, forgive me for talking excessively. We talked about development of communities. And what happens is that when people, they can build the brand new houses and put millions and millions of dollars and so on, so. They take the same people that was in the ghettos and the low-minded attitude and put them into the brand new houses. They're going to make them look like the old houses they just came out of.
Right.
But when you change their way of thinking
Right.
and understanding, in a lot of cases, you don't have to build new houses because they'll make their houses look the way they're supposed to look.
Right.
Right, and they'll clean up the grass in the neighborhood and start working together.
So why, okay, so we'll move forward to
And,
individualism.
wait a minute, and because they don't know,
There you go.
I believe people would do better if they knew better.
I agree.
And sometimes they just don't know.
I agree.
This is true.
I agree. You cannot get mad at someone that's doing something that you know that they have had no exposure to know what you know.
This is true.
And I think we're being very passive in our communities. I think we're being
Yes.
very judgmental because our brother Saran Brooks, who is over a very distinguished ministry, and he said he had a life, very, very tough life, very, very tough stuff that we could never imagine doing. It was a normal way of life for him. And then one day he had an encounter, and then all of a sudden he woke up. And he said in the midst of waking up, somebody came to him and said, well, I don't know why you did it. You knew better. He said, no, I didn't.
Right.
He said, what made you think I knew?
Right.
When did you tell me?
Right.
Did you tell me? What about you? So if none of you told me, what made you think I knew?
Right.
So you cannot hold the people accountable, but understand that it's important that every opportunity I get to inform.
Absolutely.
As a community, as a mom, as a dad, as a brother, as an American.
And even some preachers, and I am one, sometimes preachers would chew out a congregation but not tell them anything. And I think about baseball players. They could strike out at the plate and they could feel bad because everybody was counting on them.
Right.
And everything you say, hey, you struck out. And so when that player gets to the plate next time, he's going to continue to strike out unless someone says, you need to bend your knees. You need to square up your shoulders. Unless they tell him something, he's going to continue to strike out. And so often, older folks, that's us, all we do is complain and tell folks, that we're displeased, but they're saying, then help me. Show me how to hit the ball,
Right. And I keep thinking back to your comment about the PlayStation, how your mom wouldn't let you just sit and, be on the Game Boy or whatever it was. And when you think about a child who's doing that, they're really isolating themselves from the entire world. And one of my favorite sayings is you don't grow in isolation, you grow in community. And this happened like on live TV before, so that I'm gonna put this right here.
That's okay. But we have character. We're honest.
Yes.
We won't take your.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so let me just make it a match. So you don't grow in isolation, you grow in community. And like you said, going back to what you just said, if a person is constantly doing something wrong, they don't understand unless you tell them. But the sad thing about it is in our communities, and Pastor Damon Lynch III said this like some years ago. He said that adults are afraid to talk to children, to confront children because they're dangerous. And just
Who's dangerous?
This is
Well, some are.
Yeah, some children
people,
can be wayward, extremely wayward, so we have to be honest about that. And it goes back to what, I'm sorry, what's your first name?
Ron Williams.
Ron, to what Mr. Williams said about the lack of youth services and opportunities for children to engage in. I tried to have a birthday party for a 17-year-old at different venues across the city of Cincinnati. No one, absolutely no one would host a crowd of 17-year-olds because they are afraid of gun violence and everything else.
So where did you have it?
So I ended up having it at a clubhouse on Glenway Avenue.
Thank you.
So at a smaller venue, but I'm actually reaching out to people saying, hey, we need to give the youth something to do. Otherwise, an item mine is a devil's workshop. And we can't be afraid to treat them like they're animals because that's how, they're going to feel like, okay, well, the world is afraid of me, so there must be something wrong with me. There's not employment opportunities, there's not recreational activities.
Well,
we have to provide opportunities for the babies.
And I agree. And I think our discussion, and certainly this is not just the black community.
Right.
It's just families in general. It's people in general. Character. I had an interesting discussion with another group of individuals, and they were talking about some of the police violence or some of the things and stuff like, why is this so this and why is this so that? And I remember that there was a prominent entertainer that got on television and talked about that this is just our community, that some things should be done to keep the image positive for folks, certain groups, and that I'm positive that people react to you based upon their image or impression of you. And I found that folks don't do what they want to do to you, they feel what they're comfortable with doing with you. So if we are portraying images of a community that, and I'm not saying we do consecutively, but only thing they see are, women 3/4 naked, bouncing up and down, showing body parts and drinking well-known liquor with chains and golds, and they're way down in Mulla, Tennessee, where there isn't anybody across the street that look like them. The only image that they have is what they've seen.
Exactly.
And so when they interact and they become afraid of that image, when they interact with someone that looks like someone on their television, first of all, it's operating out of fear. Because that's the perception that they have. But why are we so passive to allow that to exist in the name of whatever they want to have it in when you see other communities that say, oh, no. I mean, it would be a collective of saying, no, here's another incident. They just had the Native Americans. And then the gentleman talking to the Native American, I mean, the whole Native American community came out and said, oh, this is unacceptable. You cannot do this. They came out and stood because the image was a negative image of their community. Self-value, self-respect. Our image is very important. Character. Talk to me.
Right. And value, like I said. And I know darkness don't like light. Doesn't like light, being around light. If you got enough light out there, positive images, you push them out there, and that will change the minds of kids and youth. If they see enough
Exactly.
a positive image, that's one solution that needs to be pushed. Positive programs, positive images, and demand them on the radio, on TV. People need to see, because that makes you want to be what that person is. If they show you negative images all the time on TV, in the games that kids play, there's a lot of it subliminal. So we need to start working on calling it out and changing that to a positive solution.
But they don't see enough presence in the community in a daily life.
Right, just like I said,
Well-
games.
No,
Instead of the
folks don't
negative
see it.
games, push, counteract that and push positive games on the game makers.
I don't think they want to see it.
No, but
I
isn't it
think
comment
they
upon?
rather- I think it's not popular
Amen.
to be
Thank
Okay.
you.
Reverend Shear or Pastor
Okay.
Drive.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
But
So that's not
no.
popular. You're not gonna gain any points
Right.
with your friends for that.
Right.
So I'm serious. Kids would rather say, I be robbing people. I sell drugs.
Right.
They rather. I go through drive-through. Kid tell me, I'm just here to pay my child support. Ain't nothing wrong with having a job, young man. You ain't got to tell me
Yeah.
you're just there to pay your child support. I
wanna
didn't even ask you
I
that.
want
Right.
to
I don't agree
respond
with
to what you're saying.
And that's
Yes.
kind of where the negative. That's kind of
Right.
where the weight shift is more of people want to have a negative influence because that's cool.
The negative
It's not
is
cool to
positive,
be the smart
according
guy.
to this
But
new
that's
era.
what's
Right.
being pushed
Yes.
image-wise.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
You know.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's
Them
what
type
the
of-
But I'm
parents.
saying if
That's
you
what the
keep
parents should say. No,
Right.
baby, you don't want to be like that.
How much
You don't wanna
control
do that.
do we have with the media?
Right, exactly. We have limited control, and so
But we're
We
not
gotta-
talking
That's
about
why I
the.
started in the house.
We're not
Yes.
talking about the
You know.
media. We're talking about an individual that has a concept that says it's cool to have this kind of image or to conduct yourself this way.
oh no, it's not. It's not.
That's
cool.
that's what we're talking about. So you wanted, and I want to be respectful to you, Ms. Prather. You were going to make a point to something he said, so I want to let you go ahead and say it.
I am in a very awkward stage in life. I'm 46 years old, so I can relate. I have sisters who are old enough to be my parents, and I have
Okay.
nieces who are the same age as I am, and they have younger children. And so I can understand exactly what Mr. Barber is saying. I can push this civil rights stuff and saying, we need to stand up for our rights, we need to do this, we need to do that. But then I have some of my nieces who are just really flamboyant and enjoy that flashy lifestyle. It's oh, that's not cool. And it's girl, you need to be with this person and getting this. And it's no, that's not what's going to be lasting. You got to think about what's important for your baby. So what's negative, to your point, what's negative is positive in their image. And it's because of
Right.
what they're soaking up from the media. And that's disheartening. That's why we need to change the narrative. We need to put out more positive images, but it's going to take us coming together as a community and standing up and stop being passive, like you said, Henry.
And we have to instill in them a sense of purpose.
Thank
Yes.
you. Or a
Yes.
sense of
Yeah.
individual pride.
Yes.
Of understanding. My mother used to say, well, I don't want to go to my mother. That you don't have to. What was it? You don't have to give them the whole cow or something like that.
Right.
It was a narrative or whatever you want to call
Buy the
that.
cow.
Yeah.
No, if
Right.
you give them the milk for free, they'll never buy the cow.
Right. So and to put that into a reality where kids, or not kids, but people themselves get the gist of what it really is, and that goes back to character.
Yes.
I don't agree that kids want to be, or young people want to be in that negative. I think they're comfortable at the moment. But, you take a year later, I don't have a car, and I want to have my own apartment. I'm tired of running back and forth here. So it's not really something that they want to be. But folks who have wisdom, who are parents, have foreseen that in the future, that you're going to want to have a car. For instance, I learned whenever I went on an interview, wear a tie. I was just talking to a gentleman that worked for Delta Airlines and explained that there were some people that did not know came to Delta Airlines for I hope I don't get sued for this, to a popular airlines company. So for a what is the flight attendant, and they came with the pants down and blah, blah, and he was looking like African American gentleman, a whole bunch of other folks around making a decision as to who. But there was one person that had a tie on that came and presented themselves the right way. They were hired immediately.
Right. Now, and so I'm an engineer, was retired, and at one of the churches, I took my tie off. I asked the guy, what was 2 + 2, 2 times whatever, and he answered. Then I asked him, what was the square root of some hard. He didn't know. I took my tie off, put it on his neck, and I said, so now what is the answer? And he said, I don't know. I said, so the tie didn't make you smarter? It didn't make you dumber? I said, it didn't. I said, but if a company is going to pay me $30,000 more a year to wear it, is that dumb or smart? You know. I said, so I don't mind pulling up my pants. I don't. And so we can reach them. We can reach them. You know,
or each other, because again, it's not just about kids.
Right.
No.
It's about adults.
You know, character doesn't extend to just young people. I'm noticing it is the lack of understanding that we need to, like you say, see something, say something.
That's right.
It's the passiveness that's existing in the United States of America, not just in black communities, Asian communities, whatever. It's in United States of America. Right. The importance of instilling things to help them be successful. Otherwise, they're going to be dependent on all the social services.
And I'm glad you said that, because one good thing my parents did when I was young, my mother and father, my father said, son, what you want to be? I said, I want to be a musician. He said, son, you ain't going to make no money being a musician. Give me something that's going to make, I know you want to do music, but tell me something that else you want to do. I said, Dad, I want to be like you. He said, now you're thinking. Now, he said, you can have two paths. Two paths. You can have a path that's going to make you money, and you can have a path that's something you love to do. And once you get of age, where you can join them two together, and you'll figure it out when you get of age, you're going to make that decision, and you're going to be able to be sustainable. So he gave me two paths, and I worked those two paths by the guidance of my parents, and that's what I became today.
Wow. And the simple fact that you got something, and I say this, it really doesn't take a lot. Because I found that I respect him. I can receive something from him that's going to make a great success for me. But the fact that he was willing to tell me, willing to show me, teach me, when he know I can do better. But the passiveness of individuals to understand that, first of all, we're accepting no character from individuals that we're trusting to do specific, whether it is on your job, whether it is on your home, whether it is in your church, whether it is in your community, because we're saying, well, that's what society. We are society.
Right.
We